Hello there, and welcome to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast, where we'll have a little fun, lots of laughs, and discussions on the common sense that needs to be applied to a lot of today's world news issues. And now, the disclaimer. Stay Off My Lawn is not intended as legal, medical, or financial advice. Void where prohibited. No purchase necessary to win. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 or over in the contiguous 48 states. Any resemblance to anyone living or deceased is purely coincidental. Actual price may vary. Only use as directed. Not a member of FDIC. And now, here are your hosts, Mike and Richard.
Welcome to this week's edition of Stay Off My Lawn. It's March 19th. Yes, and it's actually March 18th. I got that wrong. Right. March 19th is tomorrow, which is Tuesday, our normal day, but we're doing it on Monday. We've got appointments and we've got stuff to do. Anyways, 2024, and this is episode 59.
We're almost going to be senior citizens next week.
I'm turning 60 this year myself. So, geez. So we've got so many news stories to get to this week. But let's get to how was your weekend first?
Well, let's see. The weekend was when you're old, what do? You talk about all your maladies and problems. So a lot of you may know my wife had a complete knee replacement on her right knee on Wednesday. We had to be at the hospital at 5:00 in the morning, and she had to drink some stuff before we went at 3:00 in the morning.
Oh,
so
gosh.
It was a long day. We didn't get back home till 7, get her all settled and all that kind of stuff, and not in bed until it was pretty close to midnight. I have been that exhausted in a long time. It was a very long day.
Those are long days, yeah.
But she's doing really good. She was needing some assistance to after she went to the facility to get off, and so she's doing better. And all of a sudden Saturday I went, wait a minute, did you she went by herself on Saturday 3 days, and yesterday I had her walk a little bit. I said, I want to see if you need to go from there round down and then back, and then I stepped it off, and it was 66 feet.
Wow.
With her walker, just 4 days after having, they have to saw, cut, drill holes. It's like, hey, she has a whole new knee, but she's doing really, really well. So
how much are you getting paid for as a physical therapist? That sounds like it's pretty lucrative.
Let's see. Carry the one divide is the same amount I get paid for this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. That's great. You're doubling your income, but just by doing that,
I got to do dishes today because there wasn't any silverware left in the drawer. So I finally have to do silverware. I have to do dishes today.
Yeah, that reminds me. I got to clean the filter in my dishwasher.
So she's doing really well. I think she's going to be really happy that it was done. It's the same surgeon that fixed my shoulder a couple years ago, and he came back and told us when he was done that day, he did 7 operations that day. Came up and saw her in the room before we got released that she had to go up on the day of her surgery, had to step up 3 steps up a little stair thing that they have in physical therapy before they would release her. Yeah. And they caught her at a good time. She was feeling good. It was no big deal. So I just went, wow, she did that rather. Talk about perfect timing.
My wife had her hip surgery. So it was probably 12, 13 years ago now. They had her up on her feet the same day too. Yeah, that's kind of the new way of looking at things. They don't want you laying in bed getting, blood clots in your lungs, because that's just stupid.
But, well, you got to consider this.
Yeah, exactly. Stupid is stupid. I mean, it doesn't matter what form it takes.
We had yesterday. We had a almost 50-degree swing in temperature. It was like 26 in the morning and was 75 in the afternoon.
We were 70, 72 or 73 yesterday, and I think we're going down to 31 tonight, I think. And it's only going to be a high of 50 today, so we don't have that kind of swing. But, it's spring. Spring is just normally just terrible, terrible weather. We haven't had a lot of rain, but we've had a lot of wind and just a lot of just fluctuating temperatures, too. It's just no fun. Oh, by the way, we should put that on the Instagram, the sunrise you had this morning. Richard sent me a picture of a sunrise. It's just absolutely beautiful where he lives. Just gorgeous.
It's why I like living out in the country. You can see the hills, and those hills that you can see in the background all the way out there. they are lit up at night. There's a ski resort that's a publicly owned ski resort up on the mountains just outside of Boise. And you have this big smile on the mountains, if you will, because you can come down from both sides and whatever, and it's all lit up, and it's kind of pretty to see at night.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, yeah, we don't have anything like we have. For some reason, we have no skiing in Georgia, but
well, from my house to where the ski resort is probably about 70 miles or so.
And you can see it that far?
Oh yeah, it's lit up like a Christmas tree out there. The hills, and then all these bright lights, and it just makes a smile.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, we had family coming in from Houston, and they stayed. They got a hotel room. We don't have any room here. We have a smaller house, just like you.
Yeah.
But they got to see my granddaughters, and so it was always kind of fun. We ate a lot of beef stew, and my wife had the crock pot just boiling over all weekend. We had a lot of beef this weekend, a lot of potatoes, a lot of vegetables. So it was like we all ate well, and it was a lot of fun. It was good to see them. We haven't seen. Well, we were down there last spring, not this spring. About a year ago, we were down in Houston, and Houston area. If you get outside the city, it's really beautiful. But they're taking like a big round trip, visiting family and friends, and they're heading to Louisiana this morning to visit. Or no, I'm sorry, Mobile this morning, and then they're going to Louisiana after that. So they're older; they don't want to do this anymore. Yeah, they do this every few years. But my brother-in-law's in his 70s. He's like going, I think this might be the last trip. And I don't blame him. I don't like driving long distances anymore myself at all. So your back gets stiff, you get old, things start hurting when you do that stuff.
Yeah, my lumbago's acting up every time there's a new weather forecast.
That's exactly right. It fluctuated a little bit, and that trick knee and my neck. But anyway, news stories. Riley Gaines, you remember her? She's the former
young lady, the swimmer, and lost out to a male who says, there's other issues with that. Anyhow,
hey Riley, I'm a trans. But yeah, he's 6'4", and he's still got all his pieces, parts, and demands to get dressed in the ladies' dressing room, which is like. I've heard her speak on this many times, and it was disconcerting to the rest of the females in that place, to say the least. Well, anyway, her and 15 other, her and 15 other athletes are suing the NCAA for violation of Title IX, which, if you're not familiar with what Title IX is, it's all about equal opportunity for college education and sports, and of course, that is the epitome of the opposite of the equal opportunity. If you've got a male swimming against females, say what you will about equality, men are just stronger.
It still has the testosterone makers, if you will, and no, it just doesn't belong
for everybody
there.
in the locker room too.
Yeah. It's kind of a class action lawsuit against the NCAA.
That's exactly right.
Because it's growing. The number of people that is part of this class action is getting bigger.
Oh, is it really?
The NCAA is about to get their butts handed to them. Here's another one who's about to have it handed to them. Planet Fitness just revoked the membership of a member who came and reported there was a male changing in the women's dressing room, and they went, no, they identify as a female. And she proceeded to tell them that I don't give a damn what they identify as. They've got all their parts, and we don't want them in there.
That's right.
Well, I'm sorry, your membership's been revoked. So they canceled her membership, and now people are dropping their memberships at Planet Fitness in droves.
Yeah. And that was in Alaska, which normally Alaskans are pretty conservative. It just seems like, Planet Fitness has had a bad reputation for this. I think something happened in Arizona a few years back. Same kind of thing, that there was a man in the ladies' room and somebody complained and they booted him out. I'm like, eventually you're just gonna have to realize that most of the population in just about every state, unless you live like in the middle of a city, most of the population does not agree with that kind of policy.
Yeah, it's I don't know why we are dealing with one or what is it, 1% or 0.5%,
Yeah,
whatever
it's
of the
less than
population,
1%. One of the
that this is not right. There are two. There's hims and hers.
sure.
Period. Sorry.
And I follow a bunch of people on Instagram, and one of them is called Gays Against Groomers. And I don't know if you follow them or not, but
I've heard of it. I may have
Yeah.
even read a couple things, but I don't know that I follow them.
They're just an organization of gays and lesbians that kind of banded together and said, we don't agree with this whole trans movement, that we think men and women should be separated in their bathrooms. We think that, you shouldn't take 12-year-olds in to get bits cut off. I mean, they don't like being part of that LGBTQ. They're the LGB, but they don't like all the rest of the letters that come after that. They don't want to be associated with it. A lot of people, of course, not all, but man, that's another group that's growing like crazy too. And they're not necessarily conservative people. These are just people that have common sense. Look, when you're an adult and you decide to sleep with whoever you decide to, that's up to you. But man, when you start involving kids and really when you are male, I don't care if you're wearing a female costume or not, and you go into a bathroom. I think that lady in that story you were talking about, that lady in Alaska, said there was a little girl in there wrapped up in a towel, terrified because this man was in there shaving. I think that's what that partially was. He was in there shaving. She was terrified, this little girl.
Yeah, it's just flat out wrong.
Yeah, it just is.
At any rate.
Anyway.
Oh, and then we move on to other issues with what did 170 Democrats just vote against? Oh, what do we have on that, please?
Yeah, Liz Wheeler, who is the host of the Liz Wheeler podcast. She's fantastic, by the way. If you don't follow her, you need to go follow her. But she recently reported on a vote that happened in Congress you probably have not heard about. And here it is.
170 Democrats in Congress voted against the Laken-Riley Act, which would require ICE to detain illegal aliens who have been charged with burglary or theft. Make no mistake, Democrats know exactly how harmful, how dangerous illegal aliens are to you, and they don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. I mean, this is all still on the minds of people in the U.S. This is not old news. Laken-Riley just got murdered about a month ago, and by an illegal alien that had been arrested twice. Was it twice or 2 or 3 times in a couple of different states?
Yeah, it was more than twice, if I recall.
And he was released on his own recognizance, apparently, comes to Georgia and murders somebody. And Congress is like yeah, we can't hold anybody responsible for that.
And then how dare you apologize for calling him an illegal alien and screw poor Laken-Riley's family, who just lost their daughter and their sister, their family member, and then you're apologizing to the scum who killed her in broad daylight as she was jogging on campus?
Yeah. Well, Joe Biden, all his lefty cronies should be stepping up and taking responsibility, because we've let in 10 million of these people. And, even if you're talking 10% are criminals, which I think is probably more than that, whether they're stealing things or murdering people, which there have been plenty of stories of that. I mean,
beating up police?
Yeah. How in the world can you stand by and go, this is a good idea and we need to keep that border open? Or at least not send these people back once they start breaking the law. Heck, we played the thing from Obama and Bill Clinton from years ago. And that was their platform. Send people back once they get here and start breaking the law.
Yeah. Nancy Pelosi was the same thing in 2007, I think it was.
Yeah.
So it's like, what changed? Well, we're running out of voters, so we need to let some in because we think they'll all vote Democrat. Well, no, they're not members of the U.S. They're not citizens. They don't get to vote. That's just an old Constitution thing.
Do you remember? Do you remember seeing the pictures of the first surge after Biden took office? A lot of those people were in Biden-Harris T-shirts as they were walking up to the border.
Gee, where did they get
those? They must have found them on the side of the road somewhere in the middle of Mexico. I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Joe Biden and how nasty he has been. People try to paint him or portray him as being the kindly old grandpa, and he is the furthest from it. But we're going to remind you of all this stuff. So hang in there. We will be right back.
This is the Stay Off My Lawn show and podcast. The grumpy old men you know and love. We'll be right back.
St. Jude founder Danny Thomas once said, "There is no kinder act than helping someone less fortunate than yourself. Your kindness and dedication in the generous giving you do is essential to help further the life-saving mission of St. Jude, finding cures, saving children." St. Jude Children's Research Hospital has been around since 1962, and in all that time, no child has ever been denied treatment based on race, religion, or their family's ability to pay. To learn more and do your part, visit stjude.org.
Hi, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 2, and we're going to jump right back into Joe Biden and his personality. You might just think he's a tottering old fool, and that's fine. I think there's a lot of credibility to that, but he's always been had a temper, and he's always been kind of nasty. And if you've forgotten, there was a viral video of him talking to a union worker. I think it was up in Michigan. I think it was.
It was. And in fact, the union up there has endorsed Biden, but the membership has gone, no.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're using our dues, but we ain't voting for him. I don't care what you say.
And this specific problem was with the Second Amendment and Biden's lefty stance on the Second Amendment. He talks out both sides of his mouth on everything, and this is just one of those perfect.
Well, in other places, it would be nice if he stood up so we could hear him speak.
I was wondering why his breath was so bad. You would always think that. But you would think that his actual breath would smell like formaldehyde. I've always had that opinion. I mean, he just looks, he's got that Weekend at Bernie's vibe. Anyway, here is a clip of Joe talking to this union worker. This is a little bit lengthy, but listen to the exchange very carefully, and we'll go over some of this. And it's if you've seen the video, you know what I'm talking about. Here we go.
About how you intend on getting the union vote when there's a large portion of the union workers that are gun enthusiasts, and you are actively trying to diminish our Second Amendment right and take away our guns.
You're full of shit.
All right, thank you.
No, shush. I support the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, just like right now, if you yell fire, that's not free speech. And from the very beginning, I have a shotgun, I have a 20 gauge, a 12 gauge, my son's hunt. Guess what? You're not allowed to own any weapon. I'm not taking your gun away at all. You need 100 rounds.
So when you were at Beto, when you said you're going to take our guns,
I did not say that. That's not true. I did not say that.
It's a viral video.
It's a viral video like the other ones they're putting out. They've been simply a lie.
Your voice, you said that you're taking the gun.
Well,
he just
clarified it. Wait. Take your AR-14s.
Okay, this is not okay. Hold on. All right.
Hey, let's there's a lot of guys.
A lot of guys wanted. Don't be such a horse. You're pushing up on me.
Look, here's the deal.
Here's
the deal. Are you able to own a machine gun?
machine
I said, are you able to own one? Under law.
Machine guns are illegal.
That's right. So AR-15's illegal.
How is that in the machine gun?
No, it's not.
Semi-automatic.
Yeah, you need 100 rounds. You need 100 rounds.
In America from handguns. Why are you advocating for assault rifles when people are dying by handguns?
And it goes on where he says something about taking you out back. But there's one point where that union worker said, this is not okay. what he was talking about was Joe was pointing his finger right into his face. And it's like, Joe's just got a terrible, terrible temper.
And he keeps denying, I never said that. Do you think we don't have proof of you saying that? Yeah. And it is not stuff that's fake AI stuff. It's things that you've said and that you're planning on doing and have tried to do.
Right.
And the Supreme Court just said, yeah, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole thing is they like to demonize the AR-15. And that, you know,
I thought it was maybe the lesser gun, the AR-14.
Well, yeah, that's a smaller version. Apparently, I'm not familiar with the AR-14.
I went, what?
Yeah.
I don't think they make that. And nobody in their right mind would go into battle with an AR-15.
Oh no,
it's because of the way that it looks. It's not a big gun, and it doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It will stop you, but don't tell me you don't need 100 rounds. Not when our government's acting the way that it is now. Kind of do.
I mean, you can adjust it to where it shoots a 22 up to a 223, 5.56 type thing. But you know, but there's a lot of rifles that shoot that same thing. Sorry about that. But I mean, they demonize that whole gun as being, oh, it's a semi-automatic. Man, you can buy a revolver as a semi-automatic by definition. I mean,
you got shot. It's okay to have a shotgun. Well, get a nice Beretta that's an automatic, which means you don't have to pump a shell in. You don't have to do anything but squeeze the trigger. It's a semi-automatic, people. That's just what it is.
But they do scare people. I mean, people who don't know anything about guns, and God bless them, that's fine. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't know anything about guns. My wife will be one of the first ones to stand in line and say, I don't know hardly anything. But semi-automatic is something that you go into any gun store in the country, 90-something% of the guns that you will find in there are semi-automatics, like you said, except for maybe shotguns.
No, that is a semi-automatic. The shotgun is. You don't pump a shell in. You don't do anything but pull the trigger.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. Well,
now, I did see online a weapon that was, and it wasn't an AR-15. It was something else, but it, they look similar, I guess. But it had, every time you squeezed the trigger was a shot, you released the trigger, you had another shot.
Oh, I have not seen that.
So it would be, you pull that trigger and let go, it's boom, 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 boom.
That's somewhere in the middle between automatic and semi-automatic.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the heck. I didn't know there was such a thing. And I've been around guns all my life, and that one's a new one to me.
That's a new one to me, too. I never heard of that. But yeah, like I said, the whole thing is about demonizing the AR-15, and people believe that AR stands for assault rifle, which assault rifle again is a made up term. AR stands for Armalite. It's been around since the AR-15 has been around since 1956, I think.
Yeah,
maybe the
late 40s, early 50s, somewhere in that. It's been around forever, and AR was just kind of like there are microphones that are, you call them an AT-875R. Well, the AT stands for Audio-Technica.
Exactly.
It's not an audio talk. It's Audio-Technica.
I like those audio talk microphones. They really make me sound very manly.
They're so automatic.
I only have to pull the trigger once, and I can talk all day. But yeah, it's all about, it's propaganda. It's propaganda against the AR-15.
I'm so tired of it.
Yeah, I don't own one, but I've always lusted after one. I've never had the money to buy one. But if you're not familiar with them talking about taking away your guns, I've got a few clips here for you. This is one from a Whataburger in Texas with Beto O'Rourke when he was running for president this last time, and this is how that exchange went.
This guy can change the face of what we're dealing with regard to guns, assault weapons, with regard to dealing with climate change. And I just was warning Amy, if I win, I'm coming for him.
I'm coming for him. There's that one clip. I mean,
I think that's proof that he said, "Yeah, I'm coming for your guns."
I think it is.
I never said that. Oh, yeah, you did.
Sure you did. Here's Beto all by himself saying it a little bit more clearly.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
Everyone in the Democratic Party was like,
he tries to make himself be such a tough guy, and he's probably the guy that got shoved into a locker in high school. And I wasn't a big one to shove people in lockers in high school, but he seems like he would have been a candidate. I don't know. You haven't heard from Beto though. Is he still part of the cabinet?
No, he kind of faded off into the background because there were people didn't care for him. Let's just put it that way.
He's just it's the same as the vice president. People on her staff don't like her either. So
she's had turnover on her staff that's just ungodly, and they've let her out to be speaking again a little bit lately, and she just did a speech and sounded like she was 3 sheets to the wind.
I know.
And the thing that used to be the thing, and it was like she just sounded like she was crocked.
Have you seen some of those ladies on Instagram that do an imitation of her?
Oh, there's one that's so spot on.
The one really kind of looks like her too. It is really kind of scary. But man, the way she laughs, it's just absolutely perfect. I don't know how you'd find her. I don't even know how I found her. You might have sent her to me, but it's like
I don't know. But some of her stuff, I may follow her. I don't know. It is humorous.
Whenever I run across her stuff, it makes me cry. I laugh so hard. Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, here's Joe when he was being interviewed by Anderson Cooper on CNN too. Just so you know that was he did say all this, and this is not a doctored video.
To gun owners out there who say, well, a Biden administration means they're going to come for my guns.
Bingo. You're right if you have an assault weapon. The fact of the matter is they should be illegal, period. Look, the Second Amendment doesn't say you can't restrict the kinds of weapons people can own.
It doesn't say you can
either.
Does.
Sorry.
The
Supreme Court just said, yeah, kind of does. You can't do that.
Yeah, you can't.
Now it does up for until there was something put out. You could own a cannon.
Oh yeah, well, there's the high school that's near the high school my son went to, that's nearby here. They fire the cannon every time that somebody scores a touchdown, and the guy who is in charge of the cannon lives in my neighborhood. So guess what happens on the 4th of July and on New Year's Day, New Year's at midnight? That cannon gets blown off in our neighborhood. You know what? And we love it. We love it.
Don't hurt a thing.
We are just redneck enough to love that stuff. So.
Yeah, somebody's partying up on the hill. They have maybe 1-2 parties a year. 4th of July, they're up there and they're shooting off stuff till 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Does it happen all the time? No. There's little party function things, and they'll have a good time up there. I don't care.
Yeah.
And the sound comes down the hill from up there. I don't care.
I will venture a guess that if Trump gets reelected in November, we're going to have gunshots in that night. However long it takes for them to count all the votes, it might take another couple of weeks. But yeah,
it's we want our America back, people. That's all that amounts to. We're not hard right. We're not what are they calling now?
Christian
Trump
nationalists or mega Republicans, mega extremists or whatever.
I mean, you even had Clinton say we need to make America great again when he was doing a State of the Union speech. So when did it become a bad thing to say that?
Yeah.
Well, because they don't like Trump because they can't buy him. They can't make him do what they want him to do because he's going to do what he thinks is right. They're back to saying all the same crap that just before he got elected last election.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all made up propaganda BS to scare you. And it's just fear mongering. And none of it took place, but they're back saying the same things again.
I know.
And I'm fed up with it.
And they're calling that "Make America Great Again" racist because they're saying, well, you must mean go back to slavery. Like, what are you talking? You really got to stretch it to make it sound like that's what you're talking about. No, we're talking about being prosperous and having the country move in the right direction, not having out of control inflation or having housing prices so freaking high or grocery prices so high. I mean, a lot of it's about the economy. I think that was one of Trump's greatest assets, what he did.
Well, there was somebody that went before speaking of the economy, went before, was a town somewhere, doggone it, I can't remember where. But anyhow, she was going, I've done all the math. She was a retired teacher in this district and in the area. And she goes, let's see, you got this many illegal immigrants that are here. It might have been in Illinois. And you got this and that. And your budget is $70 million, and this is going to cost $400 million. How are you going to pay for that?
Yeah.
And they didn't have any good answers, and your time's up. Shut the mic off. Yeah, that's what they did.
Ain't that something? Well, you got to think about Biden just proposed a budget to Congress. Now, we take in about $4 trillion in taxes in this country every year, and it goes up a little bit every year, as long as our economy is doing well. But his budget is $7.3 trillion that he's proposed. So if that goes into effect, it's a 10-year budget. I mean, we're going to add another $50 trillion to the budget over the next 10 years.
It's just ridiculous.
It's insane.
And did see an article yesterday that United Nations has approved the budget to send money to cover things for the illegal aliens coming into our country. This is coming from the United Nations.
See, that needs to be disbanded anyway.
Yes, I think that was an agreement.
Steve knows what he's talking about. We've actually got something from Wesley Hunt about the Second Amendment, but we're going to hold on to that until after the break because that's 3 minutes long. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
Guests on the Stay Off My Lawn podcast stay at the luxurious Motel 6, right off I-75 on Highway 20.
Born from the tragedy of 9/11, the Tuttle to Towers Foundation carries out its mission to do good by providing mortgage-free homes to Gold Star and fallen first responder families with young children, and by building specially adapted smart homes for catastrophically injured veterans and first responders. They are also committed to eradicating veteran homelessness and helping America to never forget September 11th, 2001. And according to Charity Navigator, 95 cents out of every dollar donated goes directly to these programs. $11 a month is all they ask for to help these real-life American heroes. Visit T2T.org to find out more. That's T2T.org. Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 3. We're at halftime. Get the cheerleaders out on the field. Congressman Wesley Hunt gave a great speech on the Second Amendment. Of course, he's from the great state of Texas, but he gives a lot of insight on the Second Amendment, and which most Americans need to hear because he just makes good common sense. And it's about a 3-minute long clip, but it's worth every second.
I'm a Texan. I'm a veteran, and I am a gun owner. I'm the gun owner of multiple AR-15s, primarily for hunting and, of course, to protect my 3 little kids at home, 4-year-old, 2-year-old, and a 5-month-old. And no one is going to walk into my house and harm my children or my wife, my family. That I can assure you. 6% of all homicides, gun homicides, are at the hands of an AR-15 and weapons that are outfitted with a pistol brace. 6%. 60% are at the hands of a handgun, and the rest are weapons designated not as the 2 that I just mentioned. 6%. This is clearly an attempt to diminish our Second Amendment rights. Because if you just take away 6% of the gun homicides, it leaves you with 94. And I can assure you that a homicidal maniac that wants to arbitrarily murder people will find another weapon of choice. I hear the words weapon of war oftentimes as well. I'm an A-64 Delta Apache pilot. I flew 55 combat air missions in Baghdad. That is a weapon of war. A civilian-made AR-15 is nothing that I would ever take to battle. Now, I also recognize that we do have a mass shooting problem in this country, and my colleagues on the left would, of course, blame the AR-15. But I stand before you to blame the homicidal maniac. I walk in these halls every single day, and I am surrounded by brave men and women that carry AR-15s and weapons every single day. I have to walk the metal detector just to get in this building every single day. And just because I wear this pin does not make me more important than my children. So what I offer is, instead of trying to erode our Second Amendment rights, I would offer, let's protect our kids. Let's ensure that they have the same protection that we have in the halls of Congress. There are over 400 million guns currently in circulation. By the way, the overwhelming majority of the people that own these weapons are law-abiding citizens like myself. I refuse to allow the erosion of our Second Amendment rights to further disarm our population, making us less safe, as a further push toward communism, because that's what happens. You disarm your population, and then the government runs amok. And we, especially down in Texas, are not going to allow that to happen.
Boy, I hope the whole country can hear that and hear it for what it is, because, that's brilliant. It's a brilliant speech.
All you have to do is look back at history and the things that have occurred over time in history, and there's nothing that was said that hasn't been proven. You give us all your guns and then we can do what we want with you, which it happened during the pandemic down in Australia.
Sure.
Oh, they had that big gun buyback thing, and people gave up all their guns, and then they were going in houses, yanking people out of their house, holding them down on the lawn and giving them the jab against their will.
Oh,
and they
see, I
had
didn't see
no
that.
recourse.
Wow.
And this was a mother who was pregnant with children in the house, and they still did it.
My goodness gracious. It run amok. He worded that perfectly. It's government run amok. But, and they had a big gun buyback. So what happened after that? The knife violence went through the roof. So, I mean, evil people are going to find a way to harm or kill other people when they have it in their heart. I mean, we just have evil running around in this country, or every country, and they're going to find whatever, they got to sharpen a toothbrush. They're going to be able to hurt somebody else if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, it's you can't keep blaming the guns. It's all the stuff with pushing all this agenda. Kids are having anxiety issues in school because of all the stuff that's being shoved on them as kids, and they're not ready for this stuff. And it's not something they should have to think about or know about. Taking your kid to a gay
a drag
porn
show,
stripper
or whatever.
show, whatever. It's like, why? Why would you do that?
It's all about making yourself feel better and say, look how inclusive I am. I don't care if people think I'm exclusive or not. I've got family members that think I'm extremely old-fashioned, which I am, and narrow-minded, which I am. And I don't mind. They can think whatever they want, and I'm good. I really don't care. And I think that just comes from getting older. But I think more Americans ought to be able to step back and look at something and say, this makes no common sense. Drag shows for little kids, sexualizing little kids in any way, shape, or form, but straight sex. I don't think any of that has any place in any school, coming out of the mouth of any teacher. We didn't.
No.
and I just graduated 40 something years ago. It wasn't even that relatively that long ago. And we didn't have, we called it social, I forgot what we called it. I think I've said this before. We weren't even allowed to have this sex education. They didn't call it sex education. They called it social relations. They called it something. And it was, and they mixed in other things with it. They mixed in the dangers of smoking and dip and all that stuff. And so, I mean, they had a lot of different things in it, and how that can cause cancer and all this. But they had a lot of things. But you weren't allowed to take that class until you were 16 years old. And which to me seems appropriate. I wouldn't want to talk. I wouldn't want anybody talking to my 15-year-old about sex.
Yeah, there's a young lady, and I've run across her several times recently on Instagram, that is going out and speaking about this children, because she went through a transition to a male when she was 12 or something.
Oh, goodness.
And now she's in her early 20s and totally regrets that this should have never happened. It should have never been allowed. I didn't know what I was doing. I should have never even.
Of course not.
You're 12. Realize that when you take a mastectomy, they make it sound like, oh, we're just going to cut them off, no big deal. Well, they take out all the mammary duct, everything is gone. There is nothing you couldn't deal with, to have a child if you wanted to. And so this is someone that's going and saying, yeah, I did this. You shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
So good for her, because I'm sure that there are those that want to shut her down, just like the school district, from a lady that is being sued by the teachers union because all she did was, I want to know what the curriculum is for my kindergartner.
Yeah.
Well, you have to go online and fill out all the forms. She went online and filled out the forms, something to the tune of 60 or 70 of them, because she had a lot. For each question, you had to refill the form out. So she spent the time and did what they told her to do, and now they want to sue her because she was asking questions about what you're doing.
I mean,
come on.
Somehow they have this idea that they're in charge of your kids, and
no.
your parental.
Good news.
Yeah,
no.
I just. But didn't they kind of ban her from the meetings too? And I remember seeing that story.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. It's popping back up again now. So I just saw it. It refreshed my memory yesterday, and it's the teachers unions. And my wife was part of that for being I forget what the heck they're called, but I mean, she drove a school bus for like 15, 16 years.
Yeah, my sister-in-law did the same thing.
And was part of the AFL, the AFT something. It's combined thing now. And it's just, man, they're brutal. You will do what we say, and you will not ask us any questions, yeah?
And I want to encourage people who maybe have an inkling. If you're a good person that understands common sense, run for school board. If you have the time and the gumption to do that, we need good people on these school boards, because right now they're filled up with evil. I heard I was just talking to my brother-in-law about this yesterday. I heard a radio talk show host talking about this. For the past 30 years, we have had so many good people that could have done good things in Congress that have kind of stepped back and not run because of the scrutiny and because of all the BS that they would have to deal with once they got to Washington, D.C. or whatever state capital you happen to live near. That they have pulled out and not actually gone. So we have evil on the left and the right in those seats. And so now we're sitting back going, how in the world did we get so evil in our federal government and our state government and our local school board? Because good people have not stepped up to do the right thing or to get involved.
And the evil people are out there taking things out of context that was said. They will show just this tiny little clip, and that's getting to be the thing that's happening. It's just ridiculous anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy. Representative Byron Donalds, which no, I'm sorry, we've got one more before that from Wesley Hunt. This is a compilation, and this is kind of out there in the middle of nothing. But it's just talking about Joe Biden and his character, and he put this compilation together of Joe talking about race relations or just race in general, and this is kind of fun.
Not a racist bone in my body. I've been involved in civil rights my whole career. He's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
Biden sought and received support from Mississippi Senator James Eastland, the Democratic chairman of the Judiciary Committee and a leading symbol of Southern resistance to desegregation. He frequently spoke of blacks as, quote, an inferior race.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and nice-looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
Senator Obama released a statement saying, quote, "I didn't take Senator Biden's comments personally, but obviously they were historically inaccurate."
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. It's a brilliant. I'm not joking.
So the senators that he is speaking of with such adoration are individuals who made and built their reputation on segregation. The Ku Klux Klan celebrated the election of one of them. So this is a very serious matter.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
You don't know my state. My state was a slave state.
Oh my goodness!
Wait a minute, poor kids.
Yeah.
Home.
I don't even remember.
Tell me
repeat
you're
that.
a racist without telling me you're a racist. It's one of those things.
There's no doubt.
I don't know what he's talking about. If you go and if you want tech support, you got the same issue. There's no problem. We work very, very hard.
He should have included that clip where he was being interviewed by Charlemagne, the radio talk show host. So if you vote for Trump, you ain't black.
Oh God, yes.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, it's Shemini Christmas.
I know. It's hard to hear, but that's your president and your commander in chief. It's just so hard to hear. Representative Byron Donalds recently was interviewed and kind of blew the lid off the whole January 6th sham, as well as some of the charges against Trump because of January 6th. And here is that exchange.
We're finding out that, the January 6th committee deleted information. They got rid of information they collected. You're finding out now that Cassidy Hutchinson was spun up by Liz Cheney and others to deliver a phony story that was debunked. We already knew that the whole J6 production was just a media sham and a farce for the radical left. We already knew that. But now you know that they were meeting with Fani Willis and her team, trying to give back channel information to the Fulton County District Attorney, who, by the way, is having all kind of problems herself. They were back channeling information to her. This demonstrates very clearly that you had congressional Democrats and some useful Republicans. Unfortunately, they did the wrong thing, and it was terrible. That's why they're no longer in Congress, speaking to Liz Cheney specifically, working with radical Democrats, working with some of these prosecutors. The entire purpose has been to get Trump. It is wrong. This is fascism at its finest. This is what we're seeing right now. It's destructive of our institutions. So this stuff can't be tolerated.
And you think about it, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, who was also on that January 6th committee, he's gone too. And none of them have a career
They got voted out right quick. The rhinos in the last election, a lot of them got voted out. Some of them who are afraid of getting caught are resigning and will not run again for the next election because they know they're not going to win. So,
well, you know, I mean, he made some good points on the whole Fani Willis thing. It's like, you know, and the problem is that with her, we just had a federal judge down in Fulton County give her the option of either resigning from the case or firing her lead investigator that I can't think of his name. Her boyfriend.
Her sweetie pie.
Yeah. Sweetie pie. But yeah, she's I guess going to get rid of him because she's not going to give up power.
He's resigned is the last thing I saw.
Okay.
So she didn't have to
that.
fire him. He resigned. And it's like, you know, this whole thing, the judge should have
just
voted them all out.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Yes.
So I think that even the Supreme Court's looking at that stuff it's your legislature that's looking at firing her.
Well, all I know is that judge, if it was up to me, it seems like he's just afraid of getting fired.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in that district, if you go against somebody like Fani Willis, I mean, you're going up against a juggernaut of people that can get rid of you or, you know, literally or not.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's some of that going because we just had that happen with a Boeing whistleblower, and he had a big interview with stuff, and then he magically decided to off himself.
Scary stuff.
Really?
Did he shoot himself in the back? I mean, it seems like what they do. Anyway.
Yeah, it's people are afraid to say stuff because that's what they're doing. Is, as somebody said, he was Clintonized.
Clintonized. That's a good one. You know, but this is third world country stuff.
I don't like that at all.
No, and you hear about that a lot, Banana Republic. But that's exactly what we're seeing. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Robert Hur and his testimony in front of Congress last week. Right after we finished a podcast last week, there was all kinds of stuff happened. So hang in there.
We'll be a little bit about it or a lot of bit about it. It depends.
Might be a lot. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Kendra Rains, and I love these two old guys. That's why I listen to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast. And you should too.
Join the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society to help light the night and bring hope. Light the Night is a nationwide event that brings communities together to honor, remember, and celebrate those who have been afflicted with blood cancers. Lift your lanterns high and help shine a path to a cancer-free future. Be a part of Light the Night and find your local event at lightthenight.org. Let's light up the night and make a difference together. That's lightthenight.org to get involved.
All right, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn. Segment 4 was we're on the home stretch. We're going to talk a little bit about Robert Hur and his testimony. Remember, he was the special prosecutor investigating Biden and his handling of classified documents. Of course, most of us conservatives were not happy with his recommendations.
He's guilty, but we're not going to do anything about it. Wait a minute, what?
But this all happened right after we finished a podcast last week. I think he was on Capitol Hill right after we finished a podcast last week. So this might be week-old news, but it's good news that we need to go over. Anyway, we've got a few clips, but here's how many places, I got to say this with a straight face, how many places that these documents were found, which is disturbing in and of itself.
Mr. Hur, classified documents were found at the Penn Biden Center?
That's correct.
They were found in President Biden's garage?
In Wilmington, Delaware, yes.
And in his basement den?
Also in the same home, yes.
And his main floor office?
Correct.
And his third floor den?
Correct.
At the University of Delaware?
Correct.
And at the Biden Institute?
Correct.
I was thinking there was 8, but that was only 7.
For those of you keeping count, that's 7-0.
So he just didn't have it in a Mar-a-Lago like Trump had. But I mean, Trump's going to be he's facing 400 years in prison. So
not only that, but he was a senator, he was a vice president, and he was a private citizen. He should not have had them, period.
No. He had no power
at any point in time.
He had no power to declassify anything in that capacity. And there's more to this too. During this investigation, Uncle Joe was asked about some of these documents and situations, and you know, old Uncle Joe. He always he does what he always does. He makes up stuff to cover, his poopy diapers, or that thing that his poopy diapers cover up. So here's part of that.
February 8th, the White House question, Mr. President, why did you share classified information with your ghostwriter? The President, I did not share classified information. I did not share it. I guarantee I did not. That's not true, is it, Mr. Hur?
That is inconsistent with the findings based on the evidence in my report.
Yeah, so it's a lie. It's just what regular people would say, right? Yeah, all right. So the next one. And all the stuff that was in my home was in filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked. That wasn't true either, was it?
That was inconsistent with the findings of our investigation.
Another lie, people might say, right? Because what you put in your report was among the places Mr. Biden's lawyers found classified documents in the garage was a damaged open box. So here's what I'm understanding, right? As Mr. Armstrong laid out, you find in your report that the elements of a federal criminal violation are met, but then you apply this senile cooperator theory that because Joe Biden cooperated and the elevator doesn't go to the top floor, you don't think you get a conviction. And I actually think you get to the right answer in that. I don't think Biden should have been charged. Don't think Trump should have been charged. But under the senile cooperator theory, isn't it frustrating that Biden continues to go out and lie about the basic facts of the report that lay out a federal criminal violation?
Congressman, I need to disagree with at least one thing that you said, which is that I found that all of the elements were met. One of the elements of the relevant mishandling statute is the intent element, and what my report reflects is my judgment that based on the evidence, I would not be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury that intent element had been met.
Right, but the reason you have that doubt is the senile cooperator theory. The fact that Joe Biden is so inept in responding that you can't prove the intent, which again, I don't quibble with that conclusion, but it's frustrating to be like, oh, well, this guy's not getting treated the same way as Trump because the elevator's not going to the top floor, so we can't prove intent. While at the same time, Biden goes out there at the White House and says, well, you know, he just blatantly lies. And what I'm trying to figure out is whether or not Biden's lying because he's still so senile, he hasn't read your report, or whether it's a little craftier and a little more devious and perhaps a little more intentional than we might otherwise think. So I also want to go to this Biden Penn Center. Like, did it give concern to you that the Biden Penn Center, where all this classified stuff was being mishandled, was being floated by foreign governments?
Congressman, we were concerned with getting to the bottom of all of the classified documents that were recovered during the course of our...
Yeah, but what bothers me is that the money that was paying for the place where the documents were being inappropriately held, it was the Chinese and it was other foreign countries. Did that play into your analysis? Did you look into the $1 billion in foreign funding sources at the Biden Center at UPenn, for example?
Congressman, we conducted a thorough, impartial, and fair investigation, and we were very, very concerned with getting to the bottom of all the relevant questions relating to the recovered documents.
Did you look into the fact that the Chinese were floating the place where this guy was keeping the documents unsecure? Yes or no?
Congressman, to the extent that we identified evidence that was relevant and significant to our investigation, we put it in our report.
Okay, well, it seemed relevant to me, maybe not to you.
Yeah.
They
glossed over
I know
that.
he said we did a thorough and impartial, but it almost sounded like he said we did a thorough and partial.
Yeah, partial. Yeah, maybe he said partial.
Yeah, it was like, sorry, but you've got this. What in any trial of any kind, when you have evidence that's stacked, as we counted, 7 different places there was documents should never have been, should never have had to begin with, let alone where they were being kept in a garage sitting next to the heater in the garage. It's like, no, somebody had a meme when all that was going on that they had boxes in the back seat of his Corvette driving down the road with papers flying out the
I've seen
back
that.
of the car.
Oh my gosh. Well, but Matt Gaetz has a good point there. If the Chinese are funding the Penn Biden Center, they have access to that. I would imagine that's got to be goes along with that hand in hand.
Everybody that was part of the Penn Biden Center that was supposedly hired to be professors are part of the staff, are part of the secretaries. And that's where they all came from. And they were all paid quite well to be there, but not from Penn State. They were paid that from the Chinese. Every damn one of them got a big, hefty check.
The whole thing was a sham.
Professors that never, ever taught a single solitary class.
That was that was going to be my point. Is exactly right. Joe never taught a class. None of the staff taught a class. I mean, it's like it was all just a big setup. It was just a sham.
Well, wobbly minds do think alike. Yeah, what can we say?
Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. So what did Uncle Joe do with these documents? Of course, we just heard that he shared them with his ghostwriter, because everybody wants to read the memoir of Uncle Joe, which I don't think anybody really bought. I don't know anybody, but who knows?
Have no need.
This next clip is Representative Jim Jordan. He drills down to the reason why these classified documents were made available by Biden, and it's pretty interesting too.
Joe Biden risked serious damage to America's national security when he shared information with his ghostwriter. Shared it with his ghostwriter, the guy who was helping Joe Biden get $8 million. And oh, by the way, Mr. Hur, what did that ghostwriter do with the information Joe Biden shared with him on his laptop? What did he do after you were named special counsel?
Chairman, if you're referring to the audio recordings that Mr. Zwanitzer created of his conversations with
exactly what I'm referring to.
He slid, if I remember correctly, he slid those files into his recycle bin on his computer.
Tried to destroy the evidence, didn't he?
Correct.
The very guy who was helping Joe Biden get the $8 million Joe Biden had used, the motive for Joe Biden to to disclose classified information, to retain classified information, which he definitely knew was against the law. When you get named special counsel, what's that guy do? He destroys the evidence. That's the key takeaway in my mind.
Yeah, and
I like he slid them
over
into his recycle bin. Do you think that goes away? No. It's real easy to find. It's like you can't even destroy stuff with any kind of a...
They didn't even say that he emptied his recycle bin, which would have been a next step after that in order to try to... But I mean, whatever ends up on your hard drive stays there in a certain capacity, and somebody who knows what they're doing can be able to find all that. But $8 million, that was his, it was fronted to him for these supposed memoirs. And of course, a lot of that was just bragging. I think Trump did some of the same kind of thing. And I get it. These people are...
I don't think the book was ever on the top list of the New York Times, although New York Times would tell you it was, whether it was or wasn't.
Right,
it was,
exactly.
They're happy. They're part of the mainstream propaganda machine as well.
I don't even know what the name of the book was. I mean, I never saw it in the bookstore or anything. I mean, I go into bookstores a lot.
I didn't know he'd wrote a book when they said ghostwriter. I went, ghostwriter for what? How many times you had to use the bathroom today? What the hell was a ghostwriter?
But you know, he had 8 million reasons to pull these things out and go, hey, look what I've got. And a lot of that,
am I important?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of that came from when he was senator. So it just annoys me to no end. So why wasn't this ghostwriter charged with a crime? Representative Matt Gaetz asked that question.
So the ghostwriter purposefully deletes this evidence that seems to be like show culpability of Biden's crimes, and you don't charge him. Why did you not charge the ghostwriter with obstructing justice and deleting evidence?
Well, for a number of reasons that are laid out in the report. But in brief, Congressman, yes, when we interviewed the ghostwriter, he did tell us, and I'm trying to get the exact language, that one of the things on his mind, one of the things he was aware of, was that I had been appointed special counsel and was conducting an investigation.
Right. So he didn't. Just so everybody knows, the ghostwriter didn't delete the recordings just as a matter of happenstance. Ghostwriter has recordings of Biden making admissions of crimes. He then learns that you've been appointed. He then deletes the information that is the evidence, and you don't charge him.
That is reflected in the report, and one of the reasons...
Like, what does somebody have to do to get charged with obstruction of justice by you? If like deleting the evidence of crimes doesn't count, what would meet the standard?
So, Congressman, as we state in the relevant chapter of the report, one of the things that Mr. Zwanitzer did not delete was transcripts of the recordings that he had created that included inculpatory evidence relating to Mr. Biden.
Oh, so if you destroy some evidence but not other evidence, that somehow absolves you of the evidence you destroy? Here's what I see. Zwanniger should have been charged, wasn't. Biden and Trump should have been treated equally. They weren't.
Yeah. So if you delete, the audio, it's fine. It's just insane.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was ranting.
We need a palate cleanser.
Okay, please.
This is Joe Rogan. He's talking to stand-up comedian Bobby Lee on why neither one of them are no longer on the left. And it's a little encouraging that the left, at least from people from the past, are still using common sense on a regular basis. There's a lot of beeping going on here because you know how his podcast goes. So here we go.
Over time, this is what we're seeing. So over time, you and I, who used to be on the left, are now like, where's the left? Where are you guys? You guys are so far away. I can't even see you. You're out of your mind. You're chopping dicks off and giving little kids hormone blockers. You have no idea what the long-term consequences are. You're ignoring the health risks. You won't even talk about the health risks. You use things like gender-affirming care. What are you saying? What are you saying when you're talking about children? Why are you just accepting this? Because it's a noble thing to blurt out so everybody goes, you're on the right team. That's what it is. It's not like, oh my God, what are we doing to kids? It's not like, oh my God, what are we doing to San Francisco? It's not like, oh my God, why are we letting these violent criminals out of jail? It's like, oh my God, why are we defunding the police? What are you doing?
Yeah.
You can't say any of those things. If you say any of those things,
But you
you're
just
a
said
Nazi.
it.
Austin people are great people. They're really nice. They're nice. They're not heads. They're not Hollywood people. They're not lost in this fake world of leftist ideology that everybody's trapped in. They're just people. They're just regular people, man. And those people exist outside of these blue bubbles where everyone's gone insane. Well, I used to be a part of the blue bubble. I was 100% a left-leaning person who lived in Los Angeles. I was 100%. I never voted Republican my whole life. I was very left-leaning, especially with like any social issues. When it comes to financial things, I'm a little bit more conservative. But at the end of the day, I'm way more left than I am right. But California went nuts, man. It's gone like full communist. It's out of its mind. And their approach to law enforcement is so insane. It's so insane. The no cash bail, the letting people out for committing violent crimes, the not stopping people for stealing up to whatever money it is. What is it, $900 now? I think they raised it. I think they made it a little higher. San Francisco is non-existent. Most of San Francisco is emptied out of like big chain stores and big department stores.
I won't even do stand-up there anymore.
It's crazy.
They ruined it.
They ruined the city.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you can bring it back. The structure's still there. But
Yeah,
you'd
yeah.
have to have some hardcore Rudy Giuliani type motherfucker come in there and knock heads.
Wow.
And nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. They're peace, love, and granola and fucking wear a mask.
I'm in the middle now.
I'm in the middle.
I never thought I would ever say that.
Never.
It only happened in this last year.
Right, exactly.
I just went, I can't do it anymore. You know what I mean? People that you thought were aligned with you are like now like mad at you about shit.
They're in a cult. They're in a cult. It's got all, I mean, Mark Andreessen, who's a brilliant venture capitalist guy, explained it to me in very clear terms, like what the definition of a cult is, how you can get excommunicated, how you get shamed for having differing opinions, the group think, he's like, it's a cult. And he's right. He's 100% right.
Yeah.
It's just hard to say because then people in the cult will attack you. But they're not attacking you for a reasonable, it's not logical, like the way they're attacking you. They're attacking like someone attacks religious beliefs.
Yeah.
And some of these religious beliefs, it gets into these weird gray areas, like trans people in women's bathrooms. Like, says who?
Yeah.
Says who? How do you know that's a real trans person? How do you not know that's a creep that wants to pull his dick out in front of kids? Because those are real.
Spa.
And if that guy was a convicted sex offender. Yeah. And he was doing that. Look, those guys are real. It doesn't mean trans people aren't real also, but those guys are real. Yeah. And to even say that those guys are real, you get excommunicated. You get treated like you're a Nazi.
It's he uncovered a lot of stuff there, but to me, I thought this was worthy of a palate cleanser because it's showing that people who are committed lefties are going, wait a minute.
They're leaving the Democratic Party in droves, and that's why they have to have all these people coming across the border because they're going to, look what we can do for you. We'll give you stuff.
Right.
Well, they are doing that in Chicago. They're cutting them off and going, no more payments.
And the only reason they're doing that is because the people stood up.
Yeah,
in
and
Chicago.
said, wait a minute, this is going to cost us an arm and a leg. We can't afford this.
Yep.
So, yeah, they're having problems. And do you think those folks who haven't been giving a handout, it's like a drug addict that you stop giving them drugs, they're going into withdrawals. Holy crap, you mean I actually have to work for a living now? Wait a minute, this is supposed to be, the streets are paved with gold. You know, there are no gatos in America. Anyway, so that's from an old movie. Yeah, they're going to have lawlessness like you've never seen before.
But I think the reason that the Chinese are going to crossing the border into San Diego is because they know California will take care of anybody. These are military-age men. They're not families looking for a better life. I mean, maybe there's some of that. I'm not going to paint with a big, broad brush, but for the most part, all the videos I've seen are 20-something-year-old guys walking across that border, woman spattered here and there, but for the most part, California's going to run out of money. There's just no way.
That's the way socialism works. You run out of other people's money and you start paying those who don't want to work. The ones who are working are going, well, why should I work? They're not having to work and they get money.
Yeah. A friend of mine that lives in Northern California, I was just talking to him this morning, and he said that, as soon as he retires, he's looking to move to South Carolina, which would be great because I've known him since I was in the military. It'd be great to see him once in a while. But yeah, people are leaving. I think somebody said that Gavin Newsom was salesperson of the year for U-Haul.
Yes.
Because everybody was renting them and getting them out of there.
It cost a fortune to rent a U-Haul going from California.
Yeah.
If you want to take one there, cheap. They're happy to. What do you need?
They might give it to you for free. You just don't know.
Yeah, just to get it back there.
Yeah.
Because they can't get the vehicles back to California with people wanting to leave. So, we babbled a lot today.
We have today. Well, we hope you were somewhat informed and had fun like we did. Don't forget, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, Miss A, you can ask her to play the latest episode of Stay Off My Lawn podcast, and she'll do that for you. So
there you go. Or you can just go to our website for all of our past and present episodes at stayoffmylawn.us.
And we will see you next week, folks.
Thanks for listening. Toodles. Well, we had fun and hope you did too. The opinions heard here today are not those of anyone other than Mike and Richard. If it made you laugh or go, or even, then we've done our job. Sort of. Well, mostly anyway. And if we made you think about things in a common sense manner, we welcome you to the club. And if it didn't, then just stay off my lawn. See you next time.